Happy Thursday. Welcome to Medium Small Talk. I'm Kayla. I thought about doing a video on oracle cards because I get a lot of messages just about cards in general, how to use them, what they're for, and a lot of people who do come to see me know that I do use a deck as a preparation before readings. And so I thought, since I've been doing cards or reading cards, playing with cards, using cards as a spiritual tool since I was little. I know when I was a really young teen, like 14, 15, I used to sneak into my mom's room and I'd pull out her deck. I had a thought, I'm sure she would have let me if I asked, but I thought it wasn't something to be played with. And so I would secretly do them all the time. And I think I got my first deck when I was 17 or 18. And so my first deck I actually gave away a few months ago. It was an angel deck. So let's backtrack for 1 second. There are a lot of ways for somebody on their journey to connect with themselves and connect with spirit. Now, one of those ways is using a spiritual tool. And I have a long list of them, as do most people, that I call on when I need to. And cards, meaning tarot cards, oracle cards, are just kind of one way. You can do like daily cards. A lot of times people will just pull a daily card. Sorry, I just wanted to grab these just to connect with themselves or just have a message to create an alternative perspective for the day. So when I say cards, I mean an oracle deck or a tarot deck. Now, traditionally, many years ago, a tarot deck was traditionally what tarot readers or gypsy psychics, all of those type of people would use. And so I think that in order to use tarot, you really have to understand the history. You really have to understand the cards. And it is a lot of work. And I honor people who are able to do that. Me specifically, I was never drawn to it. I have a lot of friends who are. They love the idea of tarot cards. They love the traditional history of it. And it is something that they use. And that's amazing. Another type of card is an oracle card. So I find oracle decks are more playful. Sometimes they're more user-friendly. But I do have a deck is my favorite, and I'll kind of explain, which is an enmeshment of both a tarot, traditional tarot, and an oracle deck. Now, what is the purpose of using cards in general? My favorite thing to say about using cards as a spiritual tool, it's a conscious, intentional way to sit down with yourself to explore what's going on for yourself. Now, when I was little and younger, like even, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 minutes ago, if I had felt that there was something going on or I felt stuck, a lot of people, if they are stressed or overwhelmed, or like when I was in university, you just kind of feel like a lot is going on. It's hard to kind of manage all the emotions, all the things, all of that. And most people will do something to kind of counteract that stress, right? They'll go for a run, go to the gym, go hang out with friends, maybe go for a drink with friends, go for food, go for a walk, have a bath, go to sleep, have a nap, talk, vent it out, go to counseling. There's an array of ways that people work through it. Now, one of the ways that I always work through was just sitting down and creating that intentional space with my deck of cards. And I can promise you that in the history of me ever using my cards, I've never got up and walked away from a session with myself. This is way before I kind of embraced gifts and all of that. I promise you that I've never walked away feeling the same as when I started. And that's my favorite thing to share with people is when you create that intentional space to sit down and say, okay, what's going on with me? What's going on for me? I just want to really connect with my intuition. I want to connect with my body and myself. You always get up and walk away from that little space that you created with a new perspective, fresh insight, guidance, hope, excitement, all of the things. And that's what I loved about doing it. And sometimes it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always my first thought to be like, oh, I feel so stressed, I should look at my cards. No, the human in me kicks in and, tries to do all the things and goes for a walk or stresses or numbs out and all the things that we do as human beings. But when I would remember and I would focus and create the space to do that, I always I always found it beyond helpful. So a few things about this process. I will actually walk through exactly how to use oracle cards, but let's talk a little bit more about them. So it's also the idea, and I've said it before, is that we are a soul having a human experience. When we choose to incarnate and come down here, we are choosing, we are fully equipped for the journey. And to me, that means that we have our chakras, right? So we have our crown, which connects right up to spirit. We have our third eye, our insight, our kind of inner wisdom. We have all of these abilities, but we also have our energy field, which kind of, when we're standing too close to people or things are happening in the room, we can start to feel things. It's another kind of alert to us that maybe something's off or something is needing extra attention. There's also just our gut feeling, our intuition, our heart. We're just so equipped. And then we also have these team of guides and angels and all the things. So we're very equipped. But it's a huge part of us that we actually don't pay enough attention to, you know? I've said this before too, like our physical body we pay attention to. We know that it needs nourishment. We know that it needs, the proper food and exercise. Our emotional body, it does manifest in our body, but our emotions, we know that we need to take care of them and regulate them and calm them or do whatever to listen to them. Like that's a huge part of most of us, our everyday life. Mental, we know that our mental health needs to be taken care of, counseling or an array of things that kind of help with us, mental boundaries, kind of processing, understanding, the brain and heart connection, all of that. And then there's social, a huge other aspect of ourselves, because if we were innately connected beings, so if we were isolated and we never saw anybody, we would get depressed, and we need that human contact and that connection and that community. The other big piece is spirituality. It's our relationship with self, except we don't really incorporate that every single day as we should. And so spiritual tools are something that you can do every day or invite into your life, that it can be a part of your daily life to do so that it connects you with yourself. And so crystals are a great way, meditation, getting on your mat, doing yoga, lighting incense, burning a candle, saging, connecting, being out in nature. There's all these different kind of things, but maybe not so much nature in terms of spiritual tools. There's pendulums, there's atomic writing. There's so many different kind of unique ways. And so I'm sure in different videos we'll explain, but this one we're just talking about oracle cards or decks or tarot decks in general. So how to use them, where do you start, what do you do, how do you buy it? First and foremost, you're going to want to connect yourself, whatever community you live in, with a metaphysical store. So Lobelia's Lair is in Nanaimo. We also have Wishes in Duncan. So those are great places to start. You can also order some online. Do your research. There are some amazing, beautiful artists out there that have cultivated these amazing decks. And it might not fall in the oracle or tarot or whatever category. Whatever it is that you feel drawn to, connect with. Matt Kahn actually I think he just released I think it's called an oracle deck. But there's tons. Hay House is a good, website to go to. There's tons of them there. So whatever you're drawn to is going to be so if you're walking into the store or you're online, you're just open-minded with the intention of, I want to give myself or bring home a tool that I can use to connect with myself. And I know so many people out there would beeline it into the store and they're all in the goddess section. They just want the goddess cards. They love the illustrations. And then I have other people that I know, me in particular, I was so drawn to angels. I thought they were the most beautiful, beings. And I was always excited by angel cards. So I ended up having a ton of them, and it was always a gift that I gave people. Another one is fairies. Fairies is really gentle. It's kind of like that non-denominational kind of deck. There's so many different, so whatever you are kind of connected to, I wouldn't second guess it. It's like when you're going to pick out crystals or a pendulum, whatever you're drawn to is kind of what you get, whatever you connect with. So the biggest thing I can say is don't be scared of them. A lot of times people think somebody like me or using cards is like this particular kind of magic power that only certain people can do. Hell no, everybody can do what I do. For the most part, there's different levels and a varying kind of layers of how that works. But tools are a great way for anybody, whether you just heard the term spirituality, whether you never even saw a tarot deck in your life. It's just a really great tool for you to connect yourself to yourself. Okay, so let's go with a few. So once you have the deck, you come home. One thing is, decks, just like crystals and things and homes and spaces, they need cleaning. So I always will put mine out on the full moon if the weather is okay. If not, they go out in the window by the full moon to kind of cleanse. Another way I will just say in terms of taking care of your cards is you're going to want to knock them clean. And that means that if somebody else other than yourself is using them, or you're doing a reading for friends, when you have some, friends over for dinner, you just want to knock them. So your deck of cards will be like this, let's say, and you just want to knock 2 or 3 times, and it just kind of pulls out the energy and shifts and changes them. You can knock with a crystal, you can smudge, you can use a feather to brush off, you can do cedar, you can do anything that you want, okay? I should add though, this is important, you don't have to watch me necessarily when you go and get your own deck. Oh my gosh, it's not even under there. Oh dear. One sec. Okay, sorry. You will get a little book. It's actually not, it's a little in size, but it's actually quite thick with content. And so it's really great because the first kind of, I would say 15, 10, 20 pages actually go through with you exactly how to do it and the different ways you can do it. So I'll walk through just 2 ways just to make it less complicated. So this is my favorite. John Holland is an amazing psychic medium. He's a teacher, he's an author. And so this is one of my favorite decks. It's called the Psychic Tarot. So I really like it because I do like traditional tarot. I don't have the patience to learn it all, but I like the idea of it. And so it has major arcana cards and then minor. And so basically it just breaks it down into like physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental, and then the major kind of life themes. So it's really neat. There's chakras in here too, I should add. So I've always been connected to this deck, and I've used it for, I don't even know how long, a really long time, probably over 10 years. So this is what it looks like. This is kind of, there's usually always a number at the top. It's associated with numerology, which also is highlighted in the first little few pages of the book. And then it will have, this one specifically will have colors in terms of like the border, which obviously like this is for mental. And then let's say this one is for, purple is for spiritual, and so on and so on. Now, I always tell people when you first get started, you're going to have no idea. Like when I look at this, I know the number, what the number means. I understand the card and all, but that's because I spent well over a decade getting to know my deck personally and the cards and all of that. So it makes it a little bit easier. But the best thing is about this book is you can flip to that one page. So let's say there's the 8 there. This is a different one. This is Trapped in Fear, but there, and then it gives you about a page and a bit of kind of an explanation on what that means. And so let's back up into my apartment when I'm going through school, university. I have something going on for myself, stress, weight, I have to make some decisions of just kind of feeling off. And I always know when I feel, sometimes my guys will just put in my head, even back then when I didn't understand it was happening, like go to your cards. It'll be helpful. So say I do this, I'm like, okay, I haven't done them in a long time. I have 2 options. Since I haven't used my cards in a long time, I'm most likely going to pull 3. What 3 means is when you pull the first one, and I'll explain how to pull, is that's going to be your immediate past. Then the second one you pull would be your immediate present. And then the third one you pull is going to be your immediate future. Okay. Now, the immediate past is kind of what's been going on in the last 3 or so months. The immediate present is kind of what's been going on and what will be going on for a little bit. And the immediate future is usually like 3 to 4 months. So it's like your own little psychic kind of reading as to what's going on. Now you're paying attention to, the content, you're paying attention to the numbers, you're paying attention to all of the things. But this is where the connection with self, this is where the openness, the trust, the intuition kind of happens, and you'll get better as you go. I mean, I was not great at it for a long time. I just kind of read, it registered, and then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, focus, and then that was it. If you hold each card and it's in your hand, and you really kind of feel into it and allow yourself to close your eyes and see what's coming up for you, or when you're reading it, you'll notice things. All of a sudden, your heart will feel like it just was validated by something that was read, and you just feel like the weight of the world is falling off your heart, and it's just kind of opening, and you're having this emotional release. And sometimes it's just a new perspective. You'll look at that card and you'll read it and you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I'll never forget one of the cards. It was in my angel deck, and it said see only with love. And it was this idea of being an archangel and somebody like, or not somebody, something, some ethereal being, like an archangel, would see everybody through the eyes of love. There's no right, there's no wrong. It would just be love. And it was just this perspective of, at that time, I really needed to see somebody through that. And I didn't think that capacity was in me. And this card really offered me this perspective. And so it's little moments like that, even 15 years later, I can still remember the power in that. So cards are really powerful. Okay, so how to use them. Once you take them out of your deck, they're all going to be in order. So you're going to want to like move them around, spread them all over the floor, mix them. You can shuffle them like an actual deck of playing cards. And then you're going to knock, you can cleanse, you can hit that with your crystal, you can do whatever. And then you're going to hold them, you're going to create an intention. You're going to close your eyes. And sometimes my intention, actually 9 times out of 10, my intention was show me whatever I need to hear, whatever I need to see, whatever I need to know. I'm just open, unless I had a specific question, which was less often. So once I did that, I would just play with it. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of actually different ways to do it. I've seen people take them and spread them all over the floor and then just pick 3. I've seen people, and done myself, where you shuffle, you cut the deck in half, and then you just pull 1, 2, 3 off the top. Or you shuffle, you feel into it, and then you just pull 3 off the top. Or you kind of close your eyes and go like this, and you just are asking, okay, what's my first card? And then and then you pull it, and you can flip it over and leave it there, and then go on to your second and go on to your third. Now, one thing people always ask is, when you are moving through them, how do you know to stop? You just know. It's just like your consciousness knows to stop at a stop sign, even if you're not really truly present and paying attention. You just get that knowing, right? And then all of a sudden the car has stopped. So it's kind of like that. It happens where it's just like, stop. You can't explain it, you don't know why, and then you'll feel the card and you'll just have like a yes run through your heart center, and it's like, okay, there's no right or wrong, but it always works out. It's magic. Now, another way to do it is, if you use cards more regularly, I would recommend that you just pick 1. You could do 1 a day. You could just do 1 for insight. Sometimes if you're stuck or you just have a specific question, there are specific decks that are question specific. I recommend doing the 3-card spread when, again, like I said, you haven't done reading for yourself in a while, and you're trying to get a bigger kind of bird's eye view of what's going on, what has been going on, and what will be going on. It's kind of a better way. I personally, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but I wouldn't pull 3 cards like every few days or so, because the whole intention of pulling those 3 cards, at least for me, is doing the past, present, and future. And that can only be true once, basically, in a way, right? Now, let's look at another deck. Another type of deck is just one of these. I think this is Louise All's deck. I think it's the IM deck, but I could be wrong. Basically, these are cool cards. You can throw this in a big glass bowl and leave it in your living room. And they're just cards to pick. And so you can do that every day. And you get little ones that you can like leave in your car. Or they sometimes come in really cute bags, and you can put it in your purse. And whenever you're just needing a shift in perspective, you just close your eyes and pull. So like this one. All right. So this says, I now create a wonderful new job, which I already have, but and then it just talks about like how I'm totally receptive, blah blah blah. It's just really helpful. Okay, another one is, again, I'll just show you, I won't open it, but this is the fairy deck. It's really great. I've used that many times. Now this is really cool. I work with children in like a counseling, psychosocial kind of counseling support. Anyways, when I work with children, I work with children and families for a long time. And so this is a really cool deck that I stumbled upon. It's a Chair of Angels. So it's by Doreen Virtue, who I don't think practices anymore, but regardless, it was just meant to have for children. And so it actually comes in this cute little box, and they're really small cards, you see? And so they're really great. Like, sharing makes everything more fun. I used to do this with my nieces and my nephew, or mainly my nieces, when they were little. So I do 3-card spread for them, and it could be like talking about dreams. And of course it has the little book, again, that kind of outlines how to do it and whatnot. Now, actually, I love doing these with children, and just like to pick one, and then always be blown away about like, yeah, I had the craziest dream last night. That's so funny. And so it was always really cool to see, but I really love it as a tool for younger children because it helps them understand a world outside of themselves. It helps them at such a young age develop that sense of self around, oh, I'm not just a body, there could be more, and there's something I can do with those feelings and emotions, and something I can look to. And so I really like that. I think they're great for teenagers too. I know a lot of people that I've recommended to them, especially teenagers and young adults that you find that are very spiritually minded, very connected, very, the thing is, just to speak on children and youth, if given the opportunity and the space and the safety and the trust, they will talk to you about all things spiritual. They might not identify or express or use language that represents spirituality, but more often than not, when you give them about a little inch and create that safe space, they'll take it to like a full mile. They'll share with you about how they're curious about past lives, and you have no idea where it will come from. They'll talk to you about a dream that they have where they kind of traveled over the ocean. They'll talk to you about all things spiritual. And I mean, I would use it as that term because, again, we're going back to that relationship with the self, and we're talking about things that might not necessarily have a tangible answer or a scientific answer in this world. So all those things. So kids are innately kind of really connected that way if we are able to open up to them and with them. All right. Now, I think that is pretty much all the things that I really wanted to say about using decks. But yeah, so again, going over, you can go to any local store, go in, open yourself up. Typically, they're like, I would say you're going to be spending anywhere from $17.99 to $25.99 roughly. So for some people, that's a commitment. So wait till you have enough, but definitely give yourself that kind of permission to do that for you because you deserve it. And don't be scared and play. And you're not going to be a professional right away. I don't think even people who would identify as a professional even would say that they're professional. It just takes practice. It takes you to get to know your own deck. And then I can see your friends be like, oh, you want to pull cards with me? And I used to have so many hangouts with my friends like that. It's just a really fun way to connect. But it is a really great spiritual tool when taken in that context. And simply put, it's just great to create that intentional kind of time for yourself to connect within and see what's going on. So if above anything, that's all that you get the cards for, that's amazing. But I gather that within the many pictures and all the words and all the wisdom, you are going to learn a lot about yourself, a lot about things that maybe you didn't know, and it's going to open you up. And you're going to start to notice certain things the more you practice about how your body and how you respond to intuition, what it sounds like, what it feels like. So that concludes today on using cards. So I highly recommend this deck. And if you have any specific questions, feel free to send me a message. But happy card readings and enjoy. Okay. I'll see you next week. Bye.